Nancy Addison, and this is part of my series on getting healthy. And today I'm going to talk about grocery store shopping and how can you be the best grocery store shopper for you and your family. And I know that it doesn't matter who I talk to, they always seem to tell me that when they walk into a grocery store, they're overwhelmed, they don't know where to start, and they feel intimidated. So let's just pretend we're in a grocery store and we're walking in the door. Where do you start? Well, I would say first go to the fresh food area. So you've got fresh fruits and vegetables. They're all laid out. Where do you start and what do you look for? Well, number one, you want to look for organic. So it will frequently have a green organic little sign on it, or they'll have an area in the grocery store that says, organic on it. And so look into that area and very specifically look for the organic food. And you ask, okay, why am I looking for that? Well, organic food's going to have much more nutrient density in it. Our food gets its nutrition from the soil it grows in and the water that's used with it. And foods that are grown organically are going to have more nutrients in it because foods that are grown with synthetic fertilizers. And so people ask me, they say they see signs in the grocery store that says non-GMO. So what is the difference between a food that's labeled non-GMO but not labeled organic? So a non-GMO food may be non-genetically modified seeds, but it can still have synthetic fertilizers put on it, and it can still have the fertilizer, the pesticide with glyphosate on it. Glyphosate has been found to be a known carcinogen. And so these are some of the reasons the non-GMO, the reason you want to look for non-GMOs, you want non-GMO seeds. But ideally, what you're going to look for is you're going to look for foods that are labeled non-GMO and organic, because a food that's organic will not have synthetic fertilizers put on it, and they won't have glyphosate, a known carcinogen, put on it. So those are key things to look for. And what happens when a food has these synthetic, high chemical fertilizers and pesticides put on it is that destroys the valuable nutrients in the soil that is incredibly important for our health and well-being. So any foods that have these chemical fertilizers and pesticides put on it, it will that actually will be in the soil, that will be in the water. It destroys very fragile nutrients in the soil. It's incredibly important for our health. And so also that is in the food. So you can't wash that off. It is up in the food. So, we want to have the healthiest food possible for us and our family. So you want to look for organic, non-GMO. And so when you go into the fresh fruit area, look for things that are local and also that are vine ripened. And if things are local and vine ripened and organic, it's going to be much fresher. It's going to be less expensive. And also vine ripened, tree ripened food is going to have sylvestrols in them. And that's a particular quality of a food that has natural cancer fighting, disease fighting abilities. And so you may have heard of resveratrol, which is in red grapes, has natural high antioxidant properties and can help prevent disease. So, when you're in these areas at the grocery store, look for, what's in season. Our bodies are meant to eat things that are in season. Look for things that are local, and they may possibly be a lower price because they're more abundant at that time of year. So, what are the main things we're looking for? We're looking for non-GMO, we're looking for organic, we're looking for local, and we're looking for things that are in season. And so that'll be much more budget friendly. Also, when we're in this area, they can put out tricky little things that, you know, will make you think that they're organic, but you want to be really see on that food that it is organically grown. Now, one of the tricky things they'll do is they'll put genetically modified foods like seedless fruits, like seedless watermelon, in, and they'll maybe were organically grown, but they're grown with a genetically modified seed. Well, this is where you become a detective for yourself. But there are no natural foods given by God that are seedless. So be aware of that and avoid anything that's seedless. You want your foods to have seeds. And one of the things I do for myself, I've become a seed collector. And when I buy organic foods, I will save those seeds and save them for my own garden or just for the future, because Monsanto has bought up 60% of the seeds in the world. And it's always good if you have a delicious food that you've eaten and it has seeds in it, if you save those. And how you save those is you just dry them out, and then you put them in a little paper bag, and frequently I will put that in a plastic baggie, and I will label it as to what kind of seed it is and when I collected it, and then I'll just store it. And so I have a nice seed collection for my children and for the future if we ever decide to enlarge our garden. And also, another thing you can do with seeds, which is super healthy, is you can save those seeds and then you can sprout them, which is super easy. You just put them in a little cup of water. I use purified, non-chlorinated, non-fluoridated water. And I soak it for a day or two until it shows a little sprout, and it'll have a little tail. And when they're sprouted, you've removed the phytic acid in it so that it's going to be much more digestible and much easier for your body to process. And then you can use a dehydrator to dry it out, or you could use a very low oven under 118 degrees and just dry them out. And you can sprinkle sea salt on them, and they make a delicious snack, and they're really high in protein and good for you. That's a few of my tips for the fresh produce area. In this area, you're also going to be able to find things like roots, like ginger root, which I make tea out of, and it's very good for your blood. And so they'll have those over in a certain section, and you may have to ask somebody or look around, but you can find ginger root. You can sometimes find turmeric, which is another root that's you can make a spice with, and you can use it and freshly grated on food. You'll be able to find fresh herbs and sprouts in this area, which are incredibly nutritious and high in nutrients. And in fact, one little sprout will have as much nutrients in it as a full-grown food. So when we talk about superfoods, that is one of the ways to get intense nutrition, especially if you have children, into your children. You can sprinkle sprouts on their salad, or you can put it into their smoothies, and they won't even know they're getting all of that nutrition, which is just a great way to add a lot of healthy vegetables and things to a person's diet, especially if they're in need of nutrition. That's also a really great thing to do for elderly people who can't eat a whole lot and who need a lot of nutrition in their food. So the mushrooms are going to probably be over with the sprouts. And the mushrooms are one of those amazing superfoods that I think a lot of people don't realize how healthy they really are. But the University of Australia in Perth did a study that found that people that eat mushrooms, fresh mushrooms every day, have a 65% less chance of getting cancer. And then they also enlarged that study and found that when people add green tea to their diet on a daily basis, that went up to 90%. So that's just a really great thing to know about mushrooms. And all the mushrooms have different properties in them. chaga and reishi are probably the most powerful anti-disease mushrooms. You can find those in powdered form probably in the supplement section. You probably won't find those fresh, but there are a lot of poisonous mushrooms, so I don't recommend going out and trying to find them yourself. I would buy them from a reputable dealer. And I find that they're a great substitute for meat in recipes. So I eat a lot of plant-based vegetarian recipes that some of them I've changed from old family meat recipes, and I've substituted the mushrooms just really one for one for, you know, if it called for chicken or beef or something like that, I just slice up some mushrooms and cook them in that recipe like that, and it tastes delicious. It has kind of a meaty flavor. So that's a really great helpful tip for improving some of your recipes if you're trying to eat more of a plant-based diet. So moving out of the fresh food area, we want to go over into the bulk area, and the bulk area tends to turn over pretty frequently at most stores, so that can be a really good place to get some foods. But one of the things I've found in this area is that no matter what it is, for some reason, a lot of these companies add sugar to these foods. So make sure you look at the ingredient list and that it doesn't have added sugar to it. And frequently you won't know what kind of sugar they've added to it. And I look for ones that have absolutely no added sugar to it. And you can find sometimes sprouted things over here, sprouted lentils, sprouted beans, dried things, and they can be more cost effective. And then as we move on into some of the other areas, if you are someone who buys eggs, make sure you look for ones that are pasture raised and not cage free. Cage free means nothing. They can simply be in a big, large warehouse with no fresh air and no sunshine. And that's not a healthy way to raise chickens. And you want chickens that are raised in a humane way, in fresh air and sunshine with natural food in a natural environment. So they may be a little more expensive, but remember, every dollar you spend on a product supports a farmer that is either doing the right thing environmentally and humanely or not. And so those dollars are money that you spend is very powerful. And it either supports your health or not. So, you know, I just always think that we need to vote wisely with that. And I also found that when people eat healthier, they find that they spend less because they have less healthcare costs, less sick days, and they don't need to eat as much because nutrient-dense food feeds our body much better and easier than foods that are nutrient empty. So as we get more towards the middle of the grocery store where there's more processed foods, people ask me about alternative milks. Some of my favorites in the alternative milk section, and you'll usually find those with the cereals, those will be, I like the unsweetened ones that are vanilla flavored, or you can just get the pure unsweetened ones that have no vanilla and then add those yourself. I like adding my own versions of things if I want to, but I use alternative milks like the hemp milk, which has more omega-3s in it. It's a higher protein, and hemp is an unusual plant that it has no phytic acid. It's one of those unique plants that is like the coconut, which coconuts don't have phytic acid in it either. So I think they're just two of the most wonderful God-given foods on earth. And I think they've been demonized by the mainstream food processing companies because they prevent people from buying their other stuff that they've made that is in competition of that. So, I think a lot of the advertising on these packages, really be aware that what's on the front of the package may not actually be listed in that order in the ingredients. So take your reading glasses with you. Read your ingredients, and if there are chemicals or things on there that you don't recognize, then I would put it down and not buy it. One of the things to look for on packages when you're buying foods is the amount of sugar in it and the type of sugar. If it's listed in the top 4 or 5, then it's going to be high amounts of sugar. Also, something to be aware of, if it's gluten-free, and so many companies have jumped on that gluten-free bandwagon and tried to take advantage of the fact that so many people are gluten intolerant. And even some of the healthiest food companies that appear in the healthy grocery stores, they will have enormous amounts of sugar in them to make up for the fact that it doesn't have gluten. So, really be aware of that. Some of the best cereals to look for, I think Ezekiel Original is one of the few foods that's organic. It's non-GMO and there's no sugar in it. So that's a good one. And I think just as you walk through the grocery store, make sure to read the ingredient list. If it says whole sprouted grain on it, that's better than whole grain. The sprouted ones are the ones that have the phytic acid removed. And then when you get into the supplement area, just make sure you read the ingredients, and any supplements you buy are from food and not some kind of synthetic chemical, because synthetics don't absorb into our body naturally like whole foods do. And they have been shown to cause disease and cancer in laboratory tests. So try to make sure you spend your money wisely. I think supplements that are synthetic are a waste of money and can cause problems in your health. So I would avoid those. I would make sure I get healthy body care products that don't have synthetics in it. And so I hope you've enjoyed my healthy grocery store walkthrough. And if you want to contact me and ask me any additional questions, I put a lot of this information in my books. You can find my books on my website, organichealthylife.com, or on my author page on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I am so thankful for you to share this time with me, and I wish you wonderful health. And just when you're cooking and preparing your food, remember to add that main ingredient, and that main ingredient is always love.